Now I'll actually hit record instead of stop. All right. So whenever you're ready, go ahead and go.
This is Adam Vosding, the traveling food dude, and I'm taking the time today. This is Adam Vosding, the traveling food dude. I'm with Jeffrey Smith on the Vroom. Oh crap!
Vroom, Veer.
This is Adam Vos. This is Adam Vosding, the traveling food dude, and I'm with Jeffrey Smith on the Vroom. Hold on. This is Adam Vosding, the traveling food dude, and I'm with Jeffrey Smith on the Vroom Veer podcast, and we are talking everything about food, because who doesn't love food? You got to have food to keep you going. So this is going to be a tasty little talk.
All right, sweet. I'm going to hit stop before you keep going. But I loved it. It was great. All good. And you got everything in there. Traveling food dude, Vroom Veer, Jeff Smith. Perfect. All right, I'm going to hit stop. I'll be right back.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Michael Andersen, thank you so much for being on Vroom Veer, and welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks so much for having me, Jeff.
So you are not in your RV currently, so that's probably good for Wi-Fi purposes, but talk a little bit about what you got going on right now, because it's going to be a long, fun show, but what's going on with Michael Andersen today?
Today, I am sitting at my folks' place in just outside of Spring Green, Wisconsin.
Spring Green. So where's Spring Green?
It's about an hour west of Madison. Okay. So Taliesin. I'm in the heart of Frank Lloyd Wrightville of Wisconsin.
Gotcha.
House on the Rock.
Yeah.
Whole bit.
Oh, man.
Driftless region, Wisconsin rivers.
Yeah.
2 minutes from me right now.
God's country. Drinking old style. All right.
Actually, spotted cow is kind of the, you got to have a spotted cow.
Got to have spotted cow. Yes.
Yep. They check your cooler on the way out of town to be like, are there any spotted cows? You have to have one. It's a law. And I'm a law-abiding citizen.
Yeah, so, there you go. Excellent.
And we're here for about a week. We've been on the road for just under 10 months, and it's great to be back in the Midwest.
Excellent. Sounds like you're having a blast. So, So talk a little bit about the website, the Andersen guy. You're doing like web development business from the road.
Yeah, so thatandersenguy.com.
And that's an Andersen with an E, everybody.
Andersen with an E. Think Andersen Windows, Hans Christian Andersen. Not my choice. My grandparents messed that up for me. So I basically had always done web design from probably about 2006. I've always been working in WordPress.
Wow, okay.
We'll go into it later, but
sure.
I've always designed websites, and I made a huge pivot in life and kind of had that, what am I going to do next?
Sure.
And realized that the thing that I actually enjoy doing is working with small businesses. You know, everyone is nervous about websites.
Right.
Everyone knows they need one. A lot of people use free ones that are complete garbage and do them no purpose. So I just kind of go in as, you know, I work myself as a designer, but I also have people on staff that I send websites out to.
Okay.
And we just work on SEO and web design and just try to get people up to speed. You know, I really love working with your contractors and, you know, the people who don't have time, they know they need it, but they don't have time or the know-how. So,
it's like the new business card, or it's the new Yellow Pages ad.
Exactly.
You have to have it. Nobody knows what the hell to do. I get it.
Right. Exactly.
So you're helping out. So that's good.
Yeah. And just helping the little guy is my, the thing I take great pride in.
You've got this other thing going on, which I checked out, and it looks really neat. And I'm missing some really cool looking party in Beatty right now. Travelgatherings.com. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So travelinggatherings.com is something that I realized there was no centralized location. So I'm a full-time RVer. Within the RV space, you have your schoolies, you have your van lifers, you've got your, RVers over 70, I should say.
Right.
But there was no one place that combined events for everybody.
Okay.
My professional background, I spent 20 years as a corporate event planner. So corporate events are something I know really, really well. Unfortunately, they make my skin crawl now. But I just needed
I get
something
it. I get it. They don't have to be corporate, right? They don't have to be that gross thing. Right. They can be fun.
Totally. So just finding this one place online that wasn't, Facebook, you've got 1,000 different groups for these different subgenres. There was no
it's all nichified. Yeah, it's all nichified.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's just that one place, and designed that sitting in Moab, Utah. I spent a week, crunched, put together a website, and I've been adding events ever since. And
Moab.
It's been growing.
Oh my God, love Moab.
What's hilarious is we were there, I think about 10 days total, and I was on my computer all 10 days. I never went inside any of the parks because I was that focused.
You were.
I was in the zone,
though?
man.
You have to ride that wave when it shows up. I don't know. Maybe you're different than me, but I'm either on or off, right? I'm either like, oh, I'm so into this, right? If I'm in one of those modes, if I stop, it's over. If I go, I gotta go screw around, I come back, it's gone. I've lost the muse.
Yeah, 100%.
So when that little muse shows up and it says, you got to finish this, you don't have to necessarily make it the end product, but you have to have a really good first draft. Right.
100%. And,
Right.
And my workload, we had just spent, I think it was like 3 weeks in Colorado, and just had a ball in Colorado, and just took in all the sites and just did all the hikes and all that. So it was 3 weeks of having fun where I'm like, I need a week to bust my ass and get some shit done, basically.
See, but that fuels the batteries, right?
Totally. 100%.
Totally. Yeah. It's like, I've been outside and I'm still sore, kind of. Been there, done that.
Yep.
Don't want to do it again. I have too many t-shirts. We can tell stories, right? So that is a really good space, physically, mentally, everything is like, I can now lock myself in prison and not look at the sun for 2-3 weeks. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So let's go back in time and talk about Michael Andersen. There you go. Where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Wisconsin too?
No, I grew up in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, a little town called Wonder Lake, Illinois, which is nice. This bustling metropolis of, I think there were about 700 people.
Okay.
It was a suburb of a suburb of a suburb of Chicago.
Okay.
So
wow. Okay.
Half my school were in Bears jerseys. The others were Packers. I was always a Bears guy.
Gotcha.
I'm a Chicago sports fan.
Yep.
Spent my formative years in the northwest suburbs, went to school in Chicago at Columbia College. Spent 26 years living in the city of Chicago.
Okay.
And at age 46, my girlfriend and I moved to Asheville, North Carolina, of all places.
Okay. That explains why you don't sound like you live in Chicago anymore.
No, and I
can usually catch Chicago immediately, and I did not. So
get a couple of beers in me and give me a hammer.
Yeah.
And it's all dems and dares.
I grew up in about 50 miles north of Green Bay, Wisconsin, and my dad's best friend from work back then, his sister was from Chicago. So when I grew up, like every weekend, it was like going to the same campground in the, ever-growing bigger camper. And when I was a baby, it was a tent. And my earliest memory was a pop-up StarCraft, and then they just got bigger until they sold it and got a hunting camp. But there was Chicago people hanging out, right? So
right.
I didn't even know this, but my brain and ear was being trained to listen to people that were from Chicago, right? That's how the Berg sound, right? I'm hanging out with my girlfriend in Peshtigo, Wisconsin, and she's got ex-boyfriend, still a friend, comes over, and he says 3 words, and I go, "You're from Chicago." And he's like, "That's spooky." People in the Midwest don't know they have accents, I think, until you leave.
Correct. Yep. And going to North Carolina, I remember the first time a woman turned to me at a grocery store, and she was paying for like a candy bar with a check.
Yeah.
And I'm tapping my foot impatient. She just goes, "Bless your heart." And I was like, "Oh, she really cares for me." And
No,
I
she
talked
don't.
to someone, they're like, "No, she called you an asshole." And I'm
That's like,
"Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
all
The
right."
South is great. Bless your sweetheart. Her ass is 3 times too big. Bless her sweetheart.
Yep.
I love it. Okay, so we can talk forever. Oh, I was a Packers fan and hung out with lots of Bears fans, right? So I've learned one very key lesson that you can hang out with your rival fans just fine. You know, there's certain things you can never say to a Chicago's Bear fan. Never, ever. You can never say, yeah, the Bears kind of stink this year. You can't say that.
But they do.
Even
every
if
year.
it's
That's
true,
the problem.
even if it's true, even if it's true, they don't want to hear it from you.
Well,
They'll say it to each other. Geez, we kind of stink this year. That's okay, but not from a Packer fan.
Well, and here's the blessing in this last season. I love NFL. I'm not a stats guy. I don't remember where people went to college, things like that.
Right.
But my girlfriend is from Flint, Michigan, so she is a huge Lions fan.
Okay.
And the Lions this year, I was like,
The Lions. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Such a nice comeback. Yeah. And they beat us twice. Good for them.
Right?
Yes.
Exactly.
And
so,
this is a tangent now, but because you care and you know what's going on, I think the consensus of most Packer fans that I talk to, which is basically my brother and my dad and my mom, we're all really happy to have Rodgers leaving. And so are you. So are Chicago. Yeah. Well, he's had a big head for so long, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like you're putting up with the BS as long as they're winning, right?
Yeah. Right.
They didn't win. Just get the hell out of here.
Yep. 100%.
Didn't make the playoffs. Time to go.
Totally agree.
All right. There you go. So, okay. So you do college, right? So you said you did. What was college like for you? Was it like the party scene, kind of Animal House kind of thing?
Yes. So it was Columbia College is in downtown Chicago. So I did not get that big campus. What I did get was and it was in the south loop of Chicago, where at that time it was right next to Buddy Guy's. And it was just funny. It was a really bad neighborhood. First time I ever had a gun pulled on me was in a chicken shop, Harold's Chicken, right behind Columbia College. And the guy was trying to rob the white guy, but I'm like, dude, I'm a college kid. I'm buying one wing with dimes. Like, young audience, buddy, you know? So to say I have a tough skin, you know, probably an understatement.
Yeah, right. I got it. Okay.
It was, instead of going to frat parties, we broke into, we did a lot of underground house parties and stuff where, a new construction, you get a generator and a DJ and a keg of beer.
Yeah. The
stuff
solo,
like that.
The solo cup party.
Yeah, exactly. But we do it in properties that we had no business doing. We weren't smart, but we were entrepreneurial, $5 a cup.
Yeah, there you go.
Until the cops show up.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Oh, yeah. That sounds so much like me growing up. Yeah,
totally. And I went to school for music and recording studios and artist management. Awesome. But because of these underground house parties, that got me into corporate events. Because out of college, I was like a recording studio engineer. Like the assistant intro level was making like $10 an hour, which, granted, that was probably a lot back then, but not as much as I could get doing corporate events. Sure. So totally pivoted and was handing out gum on Michigan Avenue or whatever the thing was, And loved it.
That's great. That's the first time I've ever heard doing Midwest keggers led to a job. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, and I remember interviewing with the company and being like, no, I throw rent parties every month. I know all about this stuff.
I'm down. I know how to buy solo cups at cost. Come on.
Yeah, right. I know how to get a keg at 19.
I have a collection of my own taps.
Love it.
Taps and tap handles. I know where to get the big ping pong balls on for cheap.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. I think that about the end of that, do you remember when the English Yard, the gigantic glass of beer?
Oh, the boot?
Well, it wasn't. It's kind of like the boot.
Okay.
Just imagine like a big glass with a giant bell at the bottom that's round, and then it goes up, and it's got a gigantic long neck, and then it's got sort of like a widening hole at the top, and they fill it with beer, and that's your English yard, right? It's like a yard of beer. I was like that, and then the keg stand, I think, was like, okay, I need to find a new scene. I think I know what this is about. Then I like you, I decided maybe as I get older, quality might be better than just more. Let's get into
that certainly helps.
Yeah. Let's get into some microbrews and sip them. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what your work life was before you hit the road. So I know you were in corporate events for a long time.
Yeah. So I worked basically, stumbled into it totally by accident.
And that was right out of college, right?
Yeah, right out of college. Because I went to school for music, I was running a recording studio, and I was also a bass player. Was playing a lot of gigs, and it was something that by being a freelancer, I could pick up as long as I had a calendar and I could set the time and date. I could go work, but then I could go leave town, go play a gig in Grand Rapids or Detroit or whatever, and get back.
Right.
And that, I remember like year 10 of that, talking to a friend of mine who also is a musician, event guy, and I'm like, what do I want to do when I get up or get older? And he's like, dude, you have a career in events. I'm like, what are you talking about? This isn't a career.
I'm just screwing around.
I'm just screwing around. He's like, yeah, for 10 years, dummy. And I'm like, oh yeah.
That's rock and roll. I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, I toured Europe. I went, was doing all this crazy fun stuff, but always came home to do events. So I was self-employed for about 15 years, just doing contract work, anything from
freelancey stuff.
4 Super Bowls. I ran my favorite was a TED Talks of single malt Scotch. I did that for about 5 years.
Oh my God!
It was a traveling whiskey show. And then, just got sucked into it. The money was great. The hours were flexible. The hours were long. But when you're on site, you're there to do your job, and then you go home and think about something else.
Right.
And that turned into 20 years before I even knew it. And I just kept going up the food chain, and pretty much reached the top. And that's when I was like, these hours suck. I'm not getting any younger. I missed, I think, every family reunion, every birthday party, every wedding. I've missed funerals, and it was all because of work,
So you kind of just got sucked into the hustle kind of thing?
Yeah, it was just that, and especially as I hit a director level, there was no, the buck stopped with me. So it was like, all right, if someone's got to do it, it's going to be me. So I have the varied experience of I drove the truck at some point. I've been the manual labor. I've also negotiated the contracts. I mean, I did it all throughout my career. So
you could sort of fill in anybody's role.
Anything. Right. And moving to Asheville, I thought everything would get easier because Chicago that is a full contact city, no matter what industry you're in, which I totally excelled at, but I'm like, I needed a break, and I was getting much older. So we moved to Asheville, and then it turned out it's just the same headaches, but just, with a different dialect. And I was in Blue Ridge Mountains surrounded by beauty, and I never could get to go explore anything because I was always working.
Right. So when did you do the big shift? How long have you been doing this RV thing?
So we got a taste of it. So my girlfriend was a director of spas, like luxury spas. I was director of events. COVID came along and gave us some time to kind of reset. October of 2019, I've kind of been toying with this idea of being a nomad for a long time.
Digital nomad, right? Okay.
Digital nomad. And in 2019, I bought a shuttle bus on an auction and without knowing about COVID, no idea that was coming.
Okay.
And flipped the shuttle bus to be a tiny home on wheels. We went out on a 3-month road trip during COVID, came back, was like, that was cool, but let's grow up and, go back to working.
Okay.
But we had a taste of that. So then I got a job offer in Nashville. We moved there. And then it was the day I got a raise. I also got a note from our landlord saying our rent was going up, and it was the exact same dollar amount as my raise. And it was this moment where we were also trying to buy a place, but it was right before all the interest rates were starting to hike. So inventory was going crazy. So I remember just flipping on YouTube one night and being like, babe, what about we do this RV thing? Like we knew the shuttle bus was too small.
Okay.
We were using a Home Depot bucket as a toilet.
Yeah.
Not cool when your girlfriend runs day spas,
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, we pretty much, it was actually last Memorial Day, we bought our RV and we set out August 8th. So we're coming up on a year of everything, depending on when this gets released.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just, we set a budget of, we bought a used Class A RV. Our budget was what would be a year of rent in Asheville. And then we happened to have that cash. Which
Nice.
is great.
Yeah.
So
nice.
we purchased that was our budget. We actually got it for a little less than that. And by the time, and we completely revamped it. So from Memorial Day to August 8th, when our lease was up, we spent every night and weekend ripping out all the carpet and, RVs, whoever designs these are morons. It's all brown and like carpet everywhere. So got rid of all that, made it look honestly like our very nice apartment in Nashville. And yeah, totally revamped it. And we set out and we haven't been back. It's been amazing. We're 33 states so far.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what I like guess, if you were to guess, like how much time you spend working versus how much time you spend, say, driving, traveling, having fun.
It's it really depends on where we are and what the weather is. It's funny. It's all weather related.
Okay, great. No, I get it. That kind of makes sense.
If the weather sucks, we're working.
Okay.
But
it's nice to be able to do that, though. I mean,
totally.
Yeah, right.
And I'm at my folks' place right now. I've got a call with you, and then I'm going to go do yard work for us in the day because it's like 70 today and sunny. So I'm like,
beautiful.
Let's go.
You want to be outside? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And yeah, so I would say about 50-50. I definitely am a workaholic. I am a Midwesterner. That is something
right.
You get whether you like it or not is going up and busting your ass and and being like, man, I'm tired.
Right.
But yeah, I would say about 50-50. I do great with time blocking. So my Fridays are, more leisure.
Yeah, totally. No, I don't know if I told you this or not, but I just quit what I hope to be my last job. Technically, I still work there because they let me use it my PTO, which is really cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's what I said. I was like,
Awesome.
I totally unexpected. They like the payroll people submitted a timesheet for me, and it was all PTO. I was like, wow.
I love it.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm still kind of in that. About maybe say Monday, it was the first time it ever felt like I was a teenager, and it was like 2 weeks into summer vacation. You know that feeling? Where you sort of like, when I did it and I grew up, like you wake up when you wake up and your highlight of the morning is The Price is Right. And you're kind of hoping that the spokesmodels will be in bikinis kind of thing.
Right.
You have no plan. And I enjoyed it.
That's amazing.
Right. I too bad The Price is Right doesn't, I don't know if it was on or not, but that was just like what I was thinking of. That's where my head was. I was like, wow, I haven't felt this way since high school. It was fun.
I love it.
Yeah. It was fun. So anyway, okay. So let's talk a little bit about like all the different places you've been. You said you've hit 33?
Yeah, 33 states.
Wow.
And that includes our trip in the bus that we did 3 months. So I kind of sneak that in.
That's okay.
And then some states
sure,
like Florida. My girlfriend lived in Orlando for like 10 years because I worked in events. We've been to Florida plenty. So we're like, we're just taking that one. We're checking that box because we don't need to. We've been there,
Right.
And then, whatever, like Michigan,
Yeah.
Actually, no, we spent time in Michigan. Never mind. But yeah, no, 33 states. Yeah. We're missing the Northeast and then the Northwest. And then we have everything else.
Wow. Well,
Alaska and Hawaii, we haven't been to yet together.
It's going to be hard to get an RV to Hawaii, but that's okay.
We do in March of 24. We actually have we're going there for 2 weeks. I forget which island, but yeah, we're on. We already have that booked.
Yeah,
we're not driving.
There's a travel blogger out there that had this amazing idea. I don't know if like you might be able to implement it. I don't know what your timeline is yet, but they went planning to stay there like 3 months or something, right? Mm. So they get there and they rent the cheapest apartment that they can get. And then they go out and get like an air mattress and some shitty used furniture. And then they bought bikes on Craigslist and bought a used car. And they're all set up, right?
That's smart.
Just pretend you live there for a little while, you know?
No, I love it.
But you know what? If you think about it, that's way cheaper than staying down like in Waikiki or wherever you're going to stay. Even an Airbnb, it would be a lot cheaper.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right. So something to think about, you know.
And I know my girlfriend's mom has some points. So we're using up some timeshare. I'm not a part of those conversations. You're going to be where are we flying from?
You're going to be a passenger. Yeah. That's like every travel thing I ever do with my wife. I just show up and point out things that I should have known.
Yep.
I told you that 100 times. Honey, I wasn't listening. Come on.
Yep.
So what were some of your favorite trips, events? Like, do you go to these gatherings that you're talking about?
Yeah. So the ones that stand out, you know, the one thing I absolutely had to do, which is for every nomad, and this probably most people know what this is if they aren't a nomad, is there's this town called Quartzsite, Arizona.
Oh, right.
And Quartzsite
wasn't there a movie about that or something?
Yeah, so Nomadland that had that won an Oscar a couple years ago.
Right. Francis McDermott or something like that.
Yeah, thank you. So we went there. There's this big thing called the Big Tent Show, and it's a town of maybe 700 people that for about 2 months every January and February explodes to about 200,000.
What?
And all those people come in and like, you know, your vans, your schoolies, your RVs, cars. I met a guy who lives in his Tesla. Like, I mean, all walks of life.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was something that was just, it was something we had to do, but we will never do it again.
Okay.
Because it was just, you know, our big takeaway was being Midwesterners, or at least myself. I've never spent a lot of time in the desert. I've been to Joshua Tree. I've spent a lot of time in Southern California, but I've never spent months on end in the desert. And we did it. And we're like, we're not desert people. Arizona, you can't touch anything without getting hurt. You know? So.
Totally get it. Get it. You know, okay. So I'm gonna compound that a little bit because I agree. Okay, because I grew up in the Midwest, and my first desert exposure was I met some guys back in the early aughts, and they were in Phoenix, right? So I got into this thing where I was listening to their podcast, and they would have 2 parties a year, one in the summer and one in like Christmas. So we would go and in June and go to Phoenix, right? And the saving grace was it was a pool party. Okay. So you show up at his house. He's got a really nice saltwater pool in his backyard, and you drink beer and hang out with, you know, people that are funny. But I had the same thought. I was like, what the F? Why do people live here? Right?
Yep.
And now I live in Vegas.
Yeah, sure.
What I'll say is the desert grows on you.
Right.
But it takes a guy from the Midwest, I would say, years to see the beauty. You're not wrong, though. The desert wants to kill you.
Yeah.
So when I go into my backyard to do any kind of yard work, I have a uniform for that, right? You know, oven mitts, like long sleeve shirt. rubber glove or leather gloves, right? Literally, you got these like cactus that it's part of your garden, right? The first time I went in to just poke something, there was these like fine hair, like, barbed bristles that took weeks to get out of my finger. I was like, oh my God. Well, so I get it. When you visit, it's like a shock. Yeah.
Yeah. And we spent, I think, 4 months in Arizona, and we were down like Southern California, like Blythe area for about a month.
Okay.
And it was great. The sunsets, I've never seen a sunset more beautiful than a desert sunset is amazing.
Yeah.
The weather this year kind of sucked. It was cold and rainy.
Right. California this year sucked.
There were insane.
The rain was nuts. It was flooding all the time.
Yeah,
I know.
Crazy.
It was.
And, so that was interesting. But yeah, it was great to leave it. But I totally hear you, though, that I could see it growing on us. And we have a little pug. So that's the other thing is like one night we woke up to just coyotes completely circling our RV. And we're in the middle of nowhere by ourselves. We're boondocking on some BLM land, just in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can hear them panting. Like that's how close they are.
Yeah.
Like,
Desert wildlife is trying to actively eat everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And the javelinas, I didn't know what a javelina was.
No, those things are scary. It's like oh my God. Yeah. The rodents of unusual size, but they're not actually rodents or pigs.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. My buddy that lives in Tucson had those guys running around their yard. Yeah. Crazy. Anyway.
Yeah. Totally insane. But I will say,
was the party fun? Okay, go ahead.
The party, what I like about Quartzsite is the amount of community that's there because you have all these, hundreds of thousands of people coming in.
Yeah.
And it's every YouTuber that you can imagine. Like everyone is there.
So it's like the Burning Man of the digital nomad.
Totally. 100%. Okay. And so there was, and there were parties everywhere. So, and it totally depended on like, what was your vibe? We're Gen Xers.
Right.
And
you're
we ended
Midwesterners.
Up hanging out with Midwest. And so a couple that we met on the road, are from Ohio, and we ended up partying with them, and and by a small group there were 50 RVs, all together. So super fascinating. I attended something very early on. There's this thing called RV Entrepreneurs, this group of entrepreneurs that travel full time. So we got to go to that in Colorado, Montrose, Colorado. And that was just a great eye opener of like what people are doing to make money on the road. It's something that we have savings. That's been dwindling over the last year, but just kind of opening our eyes to what other people are doing.
Sure.
Unfortunately, every single person, the fun game I like to play when I meet a new nomad is, hey, what's your YouTube channel? Because everyone has one and 90% of them suck, So, I don't have a YouTube channel and I'm proud of that.
Right. Okay. Good for you.
But yeah, just kind of, just catching the diversity of people that travel full time that was super fascinating.
So
but then the nice thing coming out of the desert, the place that surprised me like no other was Kansas. Fell in love with Kansas. Northeast Kansas, Manhattan, Lawrenceburg, whatever it is.
Lawrence, Kansas. Yeah.
Yeah, Lawrence, Kansas.
The Supernatural show. Yeah.
Oh, so okay. Nice. Yeah, we just had no idea that was a thing.
I don't think I've ever been to Kansas.
It was going to be our 50th state, and we changed plans, and we ended up there and loved it.
Huh. You were saving it for 50.
That was going to be our 50th. Yeah, we had talked about it.
Wow. Because I could just see that discussion. It's like, well, we got to go to Kansas. And then it turns out to be really awesome.
Well, in North Dakota is typically everyone's 50th.
Okay.
So I'm like, no, we're doing it because, we also, part of being full-time on the road is you have to claim a domicile somewhere. So you have to get mail, you have to file taxes, vote.
Right.
So South Dakota is where that's my driver's license, our license plates, et cetera.
Let's talk about how that works. Cause I just had that thought. What do you have to do? Do you have to go rent a place there long enough to have a utility bill, or what do you got to do to establish residency?
basically there are 4 states, South Dakota, Nevada, where you're at, Texas and Florida are kind of the top 4 for full-time travelers.
Gotcha.
South Dakota, you have to spend one night at either a hotel or a campground and have your address printed on a receipt to show to the DMV, and then the DMV give you a driver's license.
I'm gonna be a no-dacker or a sodacker. I can't remember which one you said. Was
Yeah,
it south or north?
South.
Okay, sodacker.
Yeah, and then there's there are mail forwarding services. So we found one in Sioux Falls. So I have a Sioux Falls address. We ended up staying 2 nights because we actually really like Sioux Falls as well.
Okay.
No state income tax, which I was blown away. Growing up in Illinois, my taxes were really bad. When I moved to North Carolina, my state income tax was like twice what I was paying in Illinois, which I was not suspecting.
Yeah, yikes.
But then taxes this year, they're like South Dakota, 0. Like,
That's great.
I love this place.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's honestly a really easy process that I spent more time.
I was thinking like Nevada, when I moved here from California, I had to show a utility bill to the DMV.
Right. Totally.
Right. So that means you would have to rent a place long enough to have utilities hooked up.
Totally. In South Dakota.
And then you get out. So if you go month to month, it would work. But South Dakota, you're going to be my state.
They want residents. And that's the thing is there's some box you check that say, I will consider living in South Dakota when it's all over, which honestly, it's a gorgeous state.
Right. Right.
That we just spent time on the east side. I've been to the Black Hills, but we haven't really dove in there quite yet. So that's on our next year list.
I have to think about, I think I was in, where are the Badlands? Is that in
North? That's the west side.
Is it South Dakota or North Dakota?
Oh, South Dakota. Correct.
Okay,
yeah,
South Dakota.
Yeah.
So,
Rapid City. And
yeah. So I visited friends in the Air Force, and they were at whatever that Air Force base was that had B-1s up there. I don't remember. It's been too long. But that was my one and only South Dakota experience. It was cool. We went through the Badlands, and then I think we ended up driving to Mount Rushmore and what's that other thing? Devil's Tower.
Oh, yeah.
In Wyoming or Montana?
Wyoming, yeah. Wyoming, yeah.
Right.
And then there's, they started following me on Instagram. I'm such a bad American right now. There's the big, it's by Mount Rushmore, but it's the Crazy Horse.
Oh, right. Yeah. We saw that too. Isn't that in
Yeah.
South Dakota, or is that in Wyoming or Montana?
That's South Dakota.
South Dakota. Look at you.
Yeah. Right. I stared at a lot of maps.
No, it's okay. You're doing it now. I did it like 20 years ago, so I don't feel bad. I'm trying to scratch gray matter that's very, very gray. Well, it sounds like you're having a blast. I love this. It's as strange as this sounds. So I owned an RV for about a year, maybe 2, when we were in California, and I learned a lot. But I don't think an RV is going to work for my wife and I. So I think all things being equal, my wife would rather be in a hotel.
Sure. No, totally get it.
She just never grew up with the camping idea, the camping culture, which I really dig because I grew up doing that. There's something about like if you drive to a new city and you camp and then you like have a campfire and you're sitting, like people walk up and say, "Hey, how you doing? Here's a beer," right? It's very communal and you can make friends and that you'll never see again, probably.
Right. 100%.
Yeah. And I love that. It's just like you're driving around and you have this random meeting of people. I love doing that. Right. She doesn't want to do that.
Well,
but she will. She will. Yeah, she will. She's just that, she doesn't see the benefit just yet. So anyway, go ahead.
So fun fact on that. My girlfriend also never had been camping ever before in her life.
Okay.
First time she ever went camping, she's from Michigan.
Yeah.
I took her to the UP of Michigan, which she had never been to in her life.
Right.
So knocked 2 off at once. And
the UP actually counts as a separate state in my mind.
Totally.
Yeah, it's
but
the
it's
51st state.
It's gorgeous.
I know. Of course.
And dipping our toes in Lake Superior. And so it's funny that I think that was 2 years ago, something like that. she'd never been camping, never been to the UP, and now we live in an RV full time. So, and she was very posh, where I was raised by hippies. Single mother,
Right.
we camped when rent was a little late, So it was more, definitely a different culture sort of thing, but now she loves it, and granted, there are headaches all day long on this journey, but it's something that
you don't realize,
you learn to love it.
Like the mountain of bills that it takes to keep an RV on the road is a lot. And then if you're not using it, you need to have a place to park it. So I did everything wrong. So I don't want to say I'm an anti-RV or anti-camping. It just didn't work for me. But it was totally all my fault. So I'm living in SoCal in a townhouse, and I buy an RV, and I got like a 40-footer.
Did you do a fifth wheel or something? Or?
No, it was, what was it? It was Itasca Sun Cruiser, something like that. It was just like a 38, I guess it was more like a 38-foot. It's like a
Class A.
Class A.
You drove it. Yep.
You drive it, right? But, it's got one of those big gas motors in it, like the V12, the gas gets ahead of you when you're pumping it. It's like sucking it out. That was when I learned you can only pump $75 at a time.
Yeah. That's gone up a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, really? I suppose. Yeah, because it wasn't $4 or $5 a gallon back then.
Mine cuts off at $1.75 now.
Okay. So you can fill up almost.
Tank.
Okay.
Kind of. That's about 3/4 of a tank.
Right.
That's why, getting out of California, we love California.
Yeah.
But it was just by getting into Arizona, by going to Yuma, Arizona, I was saving $1.30 a gallon.
Right.
So we were driving 15 minutes, and I'm getting about 7 miles to the gallon in my Class A. So, working the math, I was like, it's cheaper to drive and cross the border and deal with like the little immigration.
California immigration.
I was like, what is this? I'm like
it is
Mexico.
It's another country. Yes, California is another country. Yes,
but it was. And fortunately, we also have a Prius. So the Prius.
Can you dinghy the Prius, or does the wife drive it? I don't think you can. Okay.
Yeah, we'd have to flat tow it. And we honestly didn't think we were going to need a car. And so we drive separate, which honestly is our saving grace. It's like, because we live in 188 square feet, it's that time away from each other that is so valuable.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So you drive the RV and she follows in the Prius.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah.
I love it.
Some friends of ours have been traveling. They're on, I think, year 4 right now.
Right.
I just remember my buddy Dave was like, dude, you're the smartest man out there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, my wife and I, they have a Class A, or a fifth wheel rather. He's like, we travel together all the time. They work together, and they're in such tight quarters. He's like, I would kill for 2 hours of her not to talk.
Right. Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not a bad thing. You need that time away, right? Mm-hmm. Any more than say like a good work day, right? Mm-hmm. A good work day away from your wife once a week, you can love her again.
Yep. Exactly.
But it's not that she's your wife. It's just you need that headspace. Right?
Correct. 100%.
Yeah, you just need that headspace. No, so we're planning to do something like what you are doing, but we're going to do it in the Prius in a tent. So you can sleep in a Prius.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Okay, good.
No, I have.
How did it work out? Was it okay?
Honestly, it was so prior to, I used to go on these roads. I've owned a Prius for many years now. And I remember going to somewhere in Eastern Kentucky, and I was going to tent camp, and I showed up and I set up the tent. I got a little steak on the grill. I'm all ready. And then it was just like this deluge of rain for like days.
Right.
First thing my tent did was like float away. That was steak done. Just like went away. And I'm sitting there, and I got my like steak on a paper plate, and I'm sitting in my car, and I'm like, wait a second. I fold down the seats. I had like a little camp mat.
Yeah.
Laid that out, stuck my cooler like right behind the passenger seat, and I'm 5'11", and I had plenty of space. And so then
did you put your head in the back or the front? Like by the seats?
I put my head in the front. Yeah.
In
I
the front.
basically
Okay, gotcha.
pulled up pushed the passenger seat all the way forward, put my little cooler to kind of
be your headrest. Right.
Yeah. And then, my head would go basically on top of the cooler, stack that up with
pillows.
I think I put a sleeping bag or something.
Right.
And then because it's a hybrid, it was muggy and hot, and I just
leave the AC
on the
on.
engine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I used for 8 hours like that. I think I used maybe a third a gallon.
Right. Not even a whole gallon. Right.
Yeah.
It kicks on for like less than a minute every 5 minutes. Right.
Right. I think I had a handle of bourbon that got me through the night.
You only need a little whiskey.
But in a big glass, just in case. Just in case.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's our plan. So I think what you're talking about is more or less what I'm like. The sleeping in the car is going to be like, I know how to tent camp already. I'm perfectly happy sleeping in a tent and an air mattress. I have all that stuff. Done it a million times, right? So I'm going to do that, right? If there's a compelling reason, like you said, right, that this isn't working out, it's either too hot, too cold, too whatever, right? We have the Prius. We can sleep in that. Yeah. So that's
100%.
Yeah. I'm thinking about getting one of those 12-volt coolers,
Yeah.
And I already have one of these Goal Zero Yeti like battery dealies. Have you ever seen?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Those are awesome. They'll run everything. They'll run a laptop forever. They'll run a full-size fridge for hours. Yeah. So.
And you can charge that going down the road, right?
You can charge it. Yes, I got it. Yeah. Exactly. It's got a 12-volt charger, so you don't need to get the solar panels because they cost too damn much.
Yeah. And what was my note on that? Oh, with the refrigerators, I had one of those in my shuttle bus, and I got one that was a fridge freezer.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the freezer because it is
you don't
complete
need
garbage.
that. You don't need that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that before. I was thinking about getting one that's size is more important. So I can fill that space behind my seat.
Yep.
And it does its job. So like
correct.
When it's plugged in at night, it's not going to be making much noise because at night it's, probably at the lowest power consumption it's going to be. So then you take it out like when you're not sleeping. I would imagine. Right. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, those things are great. And I got one of the, I know Yeti and every name brand have them, but Amazon have Chinese knockoffs all day long that are
just as good, way cheaper.
As good. And you figure if you buy 2 of those, it's still less than buying and if Yeti's a sponsor, sorry.
No, not at all.
But just, it's one of those, it's like buying some from Harbor Freight versus a Honda generator,
Exactly.
It's like you can buy 2 or 3 of theirs for the same price as what you get.
So it breaks, in a year or 2. That's okay.
Right. Exactly.
Just go back and get another one. It's all right.
Yeah. And the biggest thing that I got that I'm so glad I did was I got a Berkey water filter, which won't work in a Prius, but a Berkey water filter is just something that I can get. You don't know where your water's coming from. So just having, and it's it looks like one of those igloo cooler, like you see on the sidelines of a football game.
Oh, right. Okay.
But it purifies your water so that, I can, when we go visit
all
her
source,
family,
really all source water, you just dump it in there and it filters it.
And it, filters it and it tastes delicious. I'm in a house and I tried the tap water and I went out to the RV to get our water because I'm like, this water tastes better.
Wow. Yeah. See, so I when I go home to see my parents, I'm going to the UP.
Nice.
Yeah. My parents live in, have you ever heard of a place called Menominee? It's Menominee, Michigan. So it's like on the border.
And they're right next to each other, Wisconsin, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And there's Menominee, Wisconsin, and Michigan.
Yes, there is a Menominee, Wisconsin, but that's in a different place. So that's not the same place. So Menominee is a twin city with Marinette, Wisconsin.
That's what it is. And then
it's very confusing. There's too many Menominees.
As soon as you cross over, you change time zones too, right?
No?
It's all central still?
Yes. So in the UP, you're all of Menominee County is central time zone, and then I think you have to get to Escanaba before it turns into Eastern time zone.
Okay.
If you're
Got it.
familiar with Escanaba.
I'm pretty sure that's like
It's just
I
keep
can't-
going north. That's all you can do.
Right. Yeah.
It's all
we've
Highway
been-
41. That's the only road I know because I've been gone too long. Now, if I'm
Sure,
with my
sure.
dad, he knows all the roads, right?
Right. Well, and that's what we're from leaving like the Madison and Wisconsin area. Our next stop is Ludington, Michigan. So I'm currently
wow.
mapping out going up and over as opposed to cutting through Chicago. So I'm like,
It's way better.
If I go
That's way better.
up and over,
is
and
way
I'm-
better.
I've never done the Mackinac Bridge, so I really
Yeah.
want to check that. And I'm,
But
you know there's
what?
just so
If you're
much.
going to do the Mackinac Bridge, go the top zone. Like go through the whole of the UP and go down, cross
Right,
the
that's what I'm talking
bridge. Yeah, cross the bridge, turn around and go back.
We're planted in the Midwest until end of September,
I'm
so
just
we're
teasing,
kind of
Lord
bouncing. No. I totally hear it. But we've got I've never been to a Tigers game, so that's on the schedule right now.
Oh yeah, Detroit's great.
Yeah, I'm doing. My aunt has a farm, 80 acres in Ludington, so I'm going there to.
So what part of Michigan is Ludington? I'm not, is that in the UP
that's
or is
Western Michigan? So like Grand Rapids,
Okay. Gotcha.
Holland, etc.
Okay.
Kind of that region.
That neck of the woods. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, I'm just excited just to be back in the Midwest. You know, it was when someone said hi to me walking down the street, like when we were in Kansas, and I'm like, we're back in the Midwest.
Yeah.
It's this great moment of like,
Yeah.
you know, in Arizona, I'd be like, hey, how you doing? And they'd like run away from you. You're like,
Right.
What are you doing?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
oh, let's see. Okay.
Yeah. People don't get like the Midwest kind of thing. It's like you go to like Shopko, you know, and they, hey, welcome to Shopko. How you doing? Did you find everything okay? You know, they actually are engaging because they want to talk to you. They're not just doing their job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, everybody says hi. It's like they're all locked into being boomers a little bit. Like, have you seen those commercials about how not to be your dad?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
I'm that guy.
I'm that guy. I'm like,
you're from out of town, eh?
I'm not going to change. I'm going to stay me.
Yep.
And that's okay. You know, maybe we need some boomer left hangover. That to me, that's what Gen X is sort of like straddling millennial and boomer world, right? Which is great because we need like people in their, you know, late 40s, early 50s that have a clue about technology.
Right.
Because most of them don't, and it's a little sad. Well, this has been a blast. So let's see. What else can we talk about before we give up? So you were at thatandersenguy.com, and you are now living full-time and traveling. So it's traveling with one L, right?
Correct.
Gatherings.com, right.
Yep.
Oh, so there's two spellings. There's an English spelling and an...
English and Canada have traveling with two L's. The U.S. have one L.
Huh.
Which I discovered, I think, yesterday. I was yesterday-year-old when I found that out.
It was the only reason I knew is because the last week it was the traveling food dude. He made it a point to say it's only one L. I was like, isn't that right?
Yep.
I think it's mostly right. Right. Okay. So this has been a blast, Michael Andersen, the Andersen guy, that Andersen guy. I love that because I tried to Google your name and you're just like Jeff Smith. It's like there's quite a few Michael Andersons out there.
There are 3 in my immediate family.
Well,
It's very confusing.
my poor dad is James Russell Smith. So there's a James R. Smith club that he gets invited to every year. And there's quite a few of those. And that's doesn't include all the other middle initials. That's just James R.
I love it.
Well, Michael, this has been a blast. Thanks for hanging out with me. And keep in touch because when I start hitting the road sooner rather than later, I hope, my wife still has to quit her job. I'll probably be reaching out for RVing tips and camping tips and be checking out that show or gathering that I'm missing in Beatty, Nevada today.
Yeah, there's a ton. Yeah, there are so many events going on. And one other handle to drop on Instagram and Facebook, Sweet Dreams Are Made with RVs. That's our personal travel Instagram. So my girlfriend, honestly, she posts daily on that, and I get caught up with everything else. So that's
her gig. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's pretty much. She keeps to let our family know we're alive. That's what our friends and family. Hey, we're alive, and we're.
See, look, they're still posting.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Michael. You have a good one.
You too. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Yep. Talk to you later.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.